thank you for not muting, phone. Alright, so are we ready? Okay. 3, 2, 1, and go. So this is Silhouette Mirage, specifically the US version, which is only released on the PS2. And that is really bad. It was originally released for the Saturn in Japan, and then it got localized for the PS2, and they kind of butchered it. The localization company thought they were game developers and rebalanced everything. And that did not turn out well. So the first thing we're going to do is do a little bit of a money grind. And the one good thing that developers did is the only viable weapon costs a third of what it's supposed to cost. So instead of having to do more grinding on the next screen, we can just go buy the weapon. One of the other few good things, they added those splash screens to the saves. Saturn doesn't even save, but the Japanese PlayStation port does. And it's just blank text. So the way this game works is you can only damage enemies by shooting them with a shot of the opposite color or attribute. You can also drain their spirit, which is what they use for bigger attacks, by shooting them with like attributes, but it's kind of a waste of time. And now we have an endgame weapon in the second screen of the game, and that's going to go exactly how you would expect it to if this enemy will quit grabbing me. There were some enemies off screen to the right. They're dead now. And we're gonna fight a mini-boss. So this is Greg. He does a bunch of interesting things with that log. But I'm not playing fair, and I murdered him. I also destroyed that chicken walker. And now we're gonna fight our first boss. In the US version, his name is Bug. His name in the Japanese versions is Moses, because there's a lot of biblical allegory going on in this game, but the localization company didn't want that, so they removed it, or mistranslated it. And by playing with the DualShock, I can buffer a right input on the save menus so that I can more or less instantly skip them instead of having to take my time and do a single input. And this stage looks way better in the Saturn version. They completely removed a background layer because the PlayStation can't handle it. The PlayStation doesn't really do 2D. It only understands models. The good news is, without that layer and a bunch of transparency effects, the game lags a lot less. This is Nardo. In the credits, he'll be called Samurai Security, which is the company he works for. He's not very good at his job. Because his job was to keep things quiet, and then he screams out to use his special attack, and that doesn't happen. Ah, dang. So I was hoping to be able to dash into this cutscene here. Most of the time when you crouch tackle like that, instead of walking, it'll actually glitch you into your dash animation. And so you move over more quickly. This is Zohar. We're going to see a lot of Zohar.
Go easy on me.
Problem with Zohar is you can get them into a juggle loop, and then they're pretty trivial. And now we're going into some possible RNG. If those bikers at the bottom don't want to jump up, they won't, and I just have to wait for them to decide it's time to come up. Please? Come on. Thank you. And now we're going to fight another walker. The PlayStation version of the walker's AI is worse. In the Saturn version, it would stop walking, but it doesn't do that on PlayStation, so it just lets you destroy it. It doesn't always use that minigun, but that's the optimal pattern. Now we're going to fight Goliath. This is a treasure game, so it's a whole bunch of bosses. As is typical for treasure. And that went fairly well. Now we're going to fight whatever's in this box. But as it turns out, is a giant snub-nosed revolver. And that is crazy good RNG. We want lots of pink enemies because they're easier to reflect back. And we're just going to get rid of the blue ones so we don't have to worry about them.
Reflector! Enemy power status critical.
Now, if there are any doubt that this is a Japanese developed game, it's about to end. So, we have a giant flying fish girl that's also a tentacle monster. And this is kind of bad RNG, it wastes time, but the interesting thing about this run is that I need to die. One of the things that Sony has had a long-running tradition of doing is, if you're porting a game to their console, it has to have some exclusive content. This game is no different. It has a couple of extra bosses, and One of them is kind of a secret. You have to beat most of the game without dying, and then it'll potentially show up. The problem is, that's 45 seconds that I don't have because this is a speed run, and it takes about 10 seconds to die. So, ideally, something will kill me really quickly, and then I won't have to worry about that boss. So at no point in this run am I ever concerned about taking damage, because it's useful to take a fairly decent amount of damage. And here's this shadowy figure. He's not important at all. He's not on the disc, as opposed to his brother, who could also be on the disc, because there are two different disc arts for this game as a marketing stunt. It's the two big bads. And we're going to manipulate those enemies in the background AI by turning right and never turning back left. Because as soon as we turn left, they'll start throwing attacks at us, and if we don't have to deal with those, we're not going to. And now we're going to attempt to manipulate these guys over to the right. It kind of worked. That's all you can ever hope for from this game when it comes to manipulation. It's all RNG all the time, and it does not care about your feelings or your speedrun. We're just gonna dash through here to avoid that wheel. And we're gonna do it again the other direction. And so now we have a boss that casually is really kind of interesting, but it's a speedrun, unfortunately. And his AI is really bad. So this is Pablo. He seems friendly. Clothes are kind of torn up. He's going to give us a present. Hopefully it's spirit, not... No, it's mana. It's health. He's a jerk. I didn't want to heal because I need to die. He's a werewolf. And he has a problem where if you throw him in the corner, it takes him a really long time for his AI to recover, and you just kill him. It wasn't really a werewolf. It wasn't a full moon. He can just do that at will. He's not actually a nice guy. And now we're gonna fight the smiley face from Heck, which is really happy and actually a chameleon. Come on.
Enemy power status.
That could have been quicker, but it wasn't bad.
I did it!
Now, you might have thought that was the area boss. I mean, look, we got a save. We got an end of level screen. Surprise, it's Zohar.
seconds your life this time.
Okay, wow. You are being really dodgy. Fine, I'll fight you fair. I won't try to juggle you. It's clearly you're not going to allow that. The juggling is much easier on the Saturn version, I find, and I don't know if that's an actual change or not. Because in my case, I use a different weapon on the Saturn version for speedruns. The task does not. I just find I'm more consistent with the other weapon. Now we're in a cute little town. It's kind of nice. Except in the cutscene we just skipped, we got hit by a limo. And now we're gonna fight the chauffeur. And this boss has a lot of weird cycles going on. The boss itself is hard cycle based, and then it can only transition between cycles at certain points in the background animation.
Watch where you're driving, idiot!
Unfortunately for us, sometimes the hitboxes still exist after they're not supposed to, so we can do extra damage.
Watch where you're driving! Watch where you're driving, idiot!
Enemy power status critical.
And I apparently did that cycle so quickly it didn't load the voice clip. I don't know. That was really, really quick. Normally the game hangs at 50 HP for a minute. The good news, the chauffeur's down. The bad news, he was a distraction so that they could get us to— oh my god! That's not the door to the TV station. Hopefully this screen doesn't soft lock. I didn't think that it could soft lock on the US version, but a couple weeks ago I was doing practice and apparently it can. That was a very rude awakening and a very rude run. Now, if we're lucky, the next mini-boss is going to use an attack that will just immediately wipe the floor with us. Especially at just over half health. He probably won't. So this is another really interesting boss that we're just not gonna see.
Power status critical.
Because he has a bunch of shadow puppetry abilities and they're over.
Caution, power status critical.
So now we're back up top. We're gonna fight this game show host. That's not her. That is her.
Let's make this a good one.
That's not great, but it's still a fairly quick fight.
Let's make this a good one.
It's not a huge deal to not get a juggle, because this boss usually doesn't let you get a juggle.
Let's make this a good one.
And I mashed Reflector because that stops the slot machine more quickly.
Big winner. Let's make this a good one.
9 HP is actually a really good place to be.
A big winner.
We're gonna position ourselves on purpose so that we're where the cutscene happens. And, yeah. Now we're gonna fight a really bad boss.
Power status critical.
So this is Soup Boss. We're now on a cooking show. That guy's gonna sniff the soup. And our goal is to make it smell bad so it damages him. Get used to Power Punch more and need salt.
Dear Lord, that's terrible.
So he just kind of sniffs when he feels like it, and hopefully you have purple bubbles.
Oh, dear Lord, that's terrible.
Sometimes he just takes damage for no reason as well.
More.
Because this is a well-designed boss.
Excellent. Oh, dear Lord, that's terrible. It needs a little salt. More. Oh, dear Lord, that's terrible. More. Oh, dear Lord, that's terrible. More.
This is also usually where runs come to die. There is absolutely nothing I can do to make this fight faster. I can only make it slower.
Oh, dear Lord, that's terrible. More. It needs a little salt. Excellent. More.
Enemy power status.
Oh, dear Lord, that's terrible. Oh, dear Lord, that's terrible. Excellent. More.
Alright, 2 more sniffs.
Terrible. It needs a little salt. Oh, dear Lord, that's terrible. More.
Hey, I died! Oh no!
Program
I
initialized.
underestimated the power of soup.
That was really well timed, actually. because it positioned me exactly where I needed to be. I honestly didn't plan that, but I wish I had. So now we have a save screen for a cutscene that we're skipping. That was not a good place for save at all. Nothing happens in that cutscene. The wall explodes and there's soup everywhere and Bug saves China. And
See you again soon.
dang it. Didn't take my input. So here's the interesting thing. In the Japanese version of this game, the left head has one text box, so it's faster to go to the left. In the US version, the right head has one text box, so it's quicker to go right. I don't know. So we're gonna go visit Kamina Head.
Not so fast, little dudette.
And because it's the PlayStation, it's going to swallow us without opening its mouth.
Sorry about this. Nothing personal.
And it has now eaten us. So, we're gonna have to fight our way out. And it has a bunch of neutral enemies. Now, the problem with neutral enemies, the only way to damage them is to reflect their attacks back at them. You can't shoot them. It's about to become a problem because now we're gonna fight this boss, which, much like Soup, kind of just doesn't care about your speed run.
Witness our power, microbe. Red ram.
Reflector!
Red ram.
Reflector! Reflector!
Attribute wave.
He should have taken damage there, but instead, he decided to use iframes.
Red ram. Red ram. Red ram.
We're gonna
Red ram. Red ram. Red ram.
we're gonna deal with these little guys.
Reflector!
Come on,
Red ram.
please.
Red ram. Red ram.
Come on.
Reflector!
Red ram. Red ram.
Reflector!
Red ram. Red ram.
Oh boy.
Attribute wave. Red ram. Attribute wave. Red ram.
Reflector!
Red ram. Red ram. Red ram. Red
Please?
ram.
No? Oh yeah, sure.
Damage.
Reflector!
Damage. Red ram.
Reflector!
Red ram.
Reflector!
Hey, good, we're in this loop. That eventually he'll break out of because
Attribute
him
wave.
actually having an AI loop would be too useful.
Red ram.
Reflector!
Damage. Red ram.
Reflector!
Red ram.
Reflector!
Red ram.
Reflector!
Damage. Attribute wave. Red ram.
Reflector!
Damage. Red ram.
Reflector!
Damage. Red ram.
Reflector!
Red ram.
Enemy
Reflector!
power
Red
status critical.
Reflector!
Red ram.
Reflector!
Red ram.
I mean, I can do this all day. It'd be great.
Red ram.
Reflector!
Red ram. Red ram. Red ram. Red ram. Red ram.
Reflector!
Of course, that's not going to happen.
Red ram.
Reflector! Reflector!
Damage. Damage.
Thank goodness.
Power depleted. Initiate self-destruct mode.
Come on. So remember the shadowy figure earlier? He's back.
Time to test your mettle.
And this time he fights us.
Watch this surprise. Watch this. Burning arrow. Kill wave. Watch this. Burning arrow.
Oh boy. Come on. Okay, fine.
Burning arrow. Helping hand. Oh, you are good.
He's not gonna let us beat him just yet, so half health. He's gonna destroy Prinsdam, which is the giant snake thing we were on. The good news is, it dumps us right into where we want to go.
Reflector! Reflector! Reflector!
Ooh, boy. Now we have two walkers at once, a fast one and a slow one.
Reflector!
That ledge is still over there, so we're gonna make use of that.
Reflector!
We're just gonna zip around here. We don't need to fight those polypeepers. And it's bosses from here out. Sort of. So now we're gonna fight, not this guy. Hart doesn't fight us. He has minions for that.
Goodbye.
Namely Gargantuan here, who is a giant compactor. So our goal here is to feed it stuff that it doesn't like. You can tell what attribute it is by its health bar in the top right, or its wings, or the little body down in the bottom of it. And as soon as it gets 3, it will crush them. It will take 30 damage for each enemy that it ate that's the color to do damage, and it will recover spirit for any that are the same attribute. It fortunately does not heal. There is one boss that heals, and we don't fight it in a speedrun because it's slow and annoying. It also requires us to time out a fight. The next fight, in fact. Oh boy. The good news is sometimes it can grab 4. We only need 3 cycles. It will not grab 5. I've tried. It won't do it. And on the weird rare occasion that it does grab a 5th enemy, it will crush before it actually eats that 5th enemy.
Enemy power status critical.
This boss really just did not get changed at all between the US and Japanese versions. It's one of a very few that had little or nothing changed. A lot of bosses and enemies do significantly more damage. Actually, I still needed to eat one more. I miscounted. That's dumb of me. Okay. I was just waiting for the boss to die. Surprise, Zohar. So now we're in the core of the base, and bad news, it's going nuclear. So we have 2 minutes to beat the boss before it melts down. Okay. Oh boy. Good news, we have the boss in a juggle. This time we do have to fully deplete its health.
Status critical.
Okay. And I actually would prefer it be in silhouette form, which is purple, for the next boss. So Har, one of the big bads, told Zohar, no, get out of there. Get Shine, the main character, get out of there. And the reason for that is, Shine is a giant bomb. Our main character is actually a bomb so powerful, it will destroy the planet if we fail in our mission. So, the big bad needs to take some time to find a way to disarm that. And so, they release Zohar's limits, and Zohar becomes Zofar. They gain a P. I don't know. Now we get the best music in the game. Oh boy.
Enemy power status critical.
I'm actually gonna let it kill me here because I need more spirit than this to fight the final boss. Because this is unfortunately the US version where attacking costs spirit. The original Saturn version, that wasn't a thing. It wasn't a mechanic. You didn't need to be a mechanic. It's one of the balance changes that the localization company did that just ruined the game. Most of the weapons use so much spirit that they're just not viable. They don't do enough damage. Which is why we use this weapon, because they barely touched it. And that was a stupid good fight. It's nice to not have to die, but most of the time you do. And here's the final shop in the game. It has all the level 6 weapons if you need them. But odds are, Zohar probably killed you, so you probably don't have enough money for anything anyway. We decided our mission is done. We like the world this way. We've been disarmed. We're gonna leave it that way. And, Megiddo here kind of killed his brother, Har. Sure would be a shame if they were, like, two halves of the same being or something. And now Megiddo is going to be in trouble. The bad news is that is absolutely the case. So now we're on to phase 2, the final boss. Time will be coming up very quickly. As soon as this boss has no more HP, we're going to use something we haven't used the entire game, the Parasite Bomb. It's pretty much useful for this final boss and nothing else. Darn. And time. That's not bad. That's not bad at all. World record is 37:59, and anything under 42 is pretty darn good. Sub 40 is entirely up to RNG.
All right, that concludes Silhouette. Nicely done. Up next, we are going to have Green Dog, the beach surfer dude, for real this time, not just me messing up. So, got Sandbag DX. During this, we had a $20 stream from our runner here, SCXR. Am I doing this right? I believe you are. He'll be up again later with Shaq Fu Legend Reborn. So right now we're going to set up for Green Dog.